Hello and welcome to ET Studios. This episode is about AI human co-evolution, the new digital order. A little about the theme. As human AI co-evolution is set to disrupt the digital order and is going to be called the new digital order, we have global players such as Microsoft and Kyndryl coming together in a global partnership in order to deliver cutting-edge AI solutions to enterprise and users alike. In order to have a nuanced understanding of the ethical considerations of AI, the regulatory and compliance frameworks that surround AI, and how AI has to be used responsibly while it goes to the next level, we have with us Sri Krishnan Venkateshwaran, Kyndryl Fellow and CTO India at Kyndryl India, and Lijo George, India Head of Azure Data and AI Solutions, Microsoft India, joining us at the studios in order to give us a nuanced understanding of AI, responsible use of AI, ethical considerations in the use of AI, and also how biases can be removed while giving us some interesting use cases of AI. Hello, welcome Krishnan and welcome Lijo to the ET Studios. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So Krishnan, I'll start off with you here. Since we are on the topic of AI and human co-evolution, how do you think the widespread adoption of AI is actually going to reshape industries? And what do you foresee as some of the foremost trends in the process of this reshaping?
Thank you, Shanteri. Really great to be here. So see, enterprises across all verticals today are trying to seek ways to infuse generative AI and larger AI into their environments and benefit from it. And there are some telling data points recently. So for example, the number of Fortune 500 companies that are adopting generative AI in production is a whopping 92%. And this tech is moving so rapidly. So just a few years back, if you had told somebody that they will have a language understanding system at which they can throw any question and they get a response whose intelligence will surprise them, they would not have believed it. And that is kind of an indicator of what's round the corner as well. So now to your question, if I can take examples from some sectors, on how they are infusing Gen AI into their environments. So if I start with retail, travel and transportation, this a gamut of customer engagement is game changing there. So when we refer to customer engagement, it is not just a native Q&A chatbot. It is also about people from social media giving feedback, raising complaints, offering suggestions, and they could be angry or they could be praising. So in order to design a generative AI application that is an aid here, you need that system to understand the sentiment. You need it to detect any embedded sarcasm in the voice. You need it to detect the language in which the question was raised, and often the language could be a mix of a local language and English for that matter, and then respond in kind, right? Or if you take the example of financial services, most of these big financial entities today, they are seeking for ways to get generative AI solve problems like anti-money laundering, AML, or fraud detection, anomaly detection, detecting suspicious transactions and so on. If you come to edutech, which is an industry growing leaps and bounds post-COVID, there a classical problem that generative AI is helping to solve is evaluating answers to exam questions automatically, where the answers are descriptive in nature, right, in a very fair way with relative grading and so on. Or if you consider healthcare, you can have patients come and describe their symptom and in a very context-aware, intent-aware fashion, find out the right medical condition and connect them to the right medical provider, which was not possible before, right? Or automotive, Gen AI is changing the game from the perspective of designing autonomous vehicles, driverless cars, and so forth. So in short, the future is going to be strange and it's going to be intriguing.
Wonderful. So that's a great start. So Liju, bringing you into the discussion. So Krishna gave us some fantastic examples here. So how do you see this entire process of widespread, adoption of AI really kind of impacting more and more industries? And what trends do you also see from your point of view as some of the defining trends that will define human and AI co-evolution?
Thanks for inviting me here. If I look at the innovations happening in the AI space and the adoption, especially as Krishnan said, some of the industries which we have mentioned, all the repeated tasks done by humans will be taken over by AI at some stage. What it means is that the industries like manufacturing, where there are a lot of people involved currently doing a lot of repeated tasks, will get automated at some stage, as well as coming to the industries like automobiles. Recent conversation is that if they can improve the efficiency of the gearbox by 0.5%, the savings which they are talking about, it's billions of dollars for India. That's a saving on the diesel itself. So similar way, if I comes to the industry where healthcare and the research on new medicines, the time it takes to do any innovation will be far, far lesser compared to the olden times. So the innovation will be much faster. Similar way, the doctor-patient conversation, and can we have a designer medicine for me, for my disease? This will be happening in the next 10 years. So these are the innovations which will help us to live longer, and there will be an autonomous task will get managed by the AI systems. Consider with that, it's a super intelligence. That's innovation which is currently going on with Azure OpenAI, as well as other companies are innovating in that. That means to say that the AI systems will reach the parity with human intelligence, or they will surpass that intelligence of a human. They'll be able to take decisions. They will have emotional quotient, and they will be able to clearly go ahead and creatively think. That's the area when we comes in, we don't know what will happen, but in the next 10 years, surely this is going to happen. So super intelligence will be coming up, and we need to prepare for that.
So while we're talking about super intelligence and we're talking about contextual AI, there are also going to be ramifications. So Krishnan, coming back to you here, so what could be some of the long-term implications in terms of, how AI will kind of be viewed at from a long-term societal implication point of view, from a regulatory and a compliance point of view? What are the considerations we should have while looking at widespread adoption?
A great question, Shantari. So see, researchers are calling out the distinct possibility of what's called artificial general intelligence, or AGI, or general purpose intelligence, right? Where they talk about how AI can be smarter than humans. And we all know that smarter entities control less smart entities. And in this space, AI has a huge advantage over humans in a couple of areas. One is in transferring and preserving the intelligence. So imagine 1,000 human beings taking 1,000 different courses or reading 1,000 different books. Now imagine how they can transfer all that knowledge perfectly. It is not possible. But think of 1,000 language models trained in 1,000 different sets of data. So now if they want to transfer that knowledge perfectly, it is only a question of copying the billions or trillions of gradients and weights, right? And they can do it. And then on preserving the intelligence, see, human intelligence is a lifespan of 2 or 3 billion seconds. That is the average lifespan. But that does not hold for AI. Right? Now we come to AI generated material on the internet. So today, LLMs are mostly trained with human generated content. It follows that in the near future, LLMs will be trained by a mix of human and AI generated content. And there are studies that show that LLMs don't work very well when there is a lot of AI generated content, right? And it is only a matter of time before the human generated content becomes overwhelmed or overnumbered by the AI generated content. And this has ramifications in terms of societal implications. So people may be skeptical of what is out there, right, on the internet. And there is discussion around deepfakes and how they can even impact democratic processes and so on and so forth. So now we come to regulation, how it ties in here. So most industry leaders and researchers say that the main solution here is mandatory government legislation. So, for example, if there is legislation that says a percentage of the computational resources should be earmarked for safety testing, say, for example, 20% for safety testing and the rest 80% for development, then you have safety in focus. Then there is this entire area of corporate governance, right? And then you may also encounter technological breakthroughs. So, this technology, since it is, right there or at the boundaries between the internet and social media, so there are societal implications, and there are novel ways to tackle it today.
Absolutely. So, Lijo, what do you foresee are some of the considerations that are paramount while you're really looking at the widespread adoption of AI, both from a regulatory and compliance standpoint? So, some interesting points that Krishnan raised. So, would you want to add further to that?
Sure. If we look at AI is going to create a lot of jobs, new jobs, especially in the AI field, where you develop, work with customers, make it happen, make it reality. The similar way, it's going to displace a lot of jobs which is currently doing a repeated task. So as a government or as a society, we have a moral responsibility to skill them. So in the next 10 years, you will see a lot of upskilling and cross-skilling of the resources the organization has, as well as the government will be spending a lot of money on skilling the resources that we have. The other impact, once the human started talking to a bot and a bot talking to a bot, then the looking at the after 10 years down the line, how will be the human interaction will happen? If the kids growing up talking to a bot constantly, how that person will be able to establish a connect with another human in an emotional way. So these are the researches which will happen. I just want to give you an example now as it happens today. One of the food tech delivery companies, they do have 1 lakh employees, which currently delivers food to you, our houses. And as part of the new tax regime, they get a smaller portion of their salary back. In the older context, everybody going and filing a tax returns whereby it would have been impossible. What they have done is that they created an WhatsApp-based bot where they can go and provide all the information in their natural language. In the backend, it uses Azure OpenAI, converts that entire data into a tax filing form, and each employee is going to get around 10,000 rupees back as a tax filing return. If this technology would have been not possible for them to go ahead and do that. So if I look at for the next 10 years, look at the farmers in India. And how do they currently access any technology? It would have been very difficult. Once the widespread adoption of AI technology with voice, they will have access to all the government services available. They will be able to interact with the system, submit their forms, and also to go and inquire about what are the farm loans available, subsidies available, interact with the system and benefited. So I see a huge benefit for the society coming up. The similar way, there is a responsibility to go and upskill a lot of resources. Coming to the regulatory side, there will be a cross-border conversation needs to happen. Like a judiciary system, we need to have some kind of a rules and then guardrails built to make sure that AI is not crossing the limit. And we do have policies and procedures to control. Not only in India, across India, there is a common policy can come up to regulate the AI industry.
Sure, something like as you said, cross-border, a global, a consortium of sorts that can regulate this across policy. Correct. That's a very interesting point, and eventually it should pan out in all logicity. Yeah. So, Krishnan, further to what Lijo just added, now that we're talking about security and privacy in AI, and we are kind of looking at mainstream AI. How are we really going to look at responsible AI, both from a user standpoint and when it kind of scales up to enterprise as well? So how are we really looking at responsible AI?
See, excellent question. See, large language models are trained on very large amount of data, typically all the information on the internet, the World Wide Web. So they suck in a lot of content. So within this content, they may absorb copyrighted material, they may absorb existing through historical biases, right? They may absorb your public profiles, for example. And now if you want to remove some of this, for example, if regulation gives you the right to remove your public profile, or let's say you want to remove some copyrighted content or biased material, you can't just scissor away the neurons that embed this, because the technology doesn't work this way at all. So the implications from a technology perspective and the challenges that we have to grapple with are, pretty gigantic here. Or if I take certain other aspects, so there are novel cyber threats that open up with this kind of a technology. One is called model inversion, where you control the parameters of the model, so in order to influence its output, right? Or also something called data poisoning, where you try to manipulate the training data to get a predetermined output, right? And then you have to, as a generative AI application developer, you have to contend with aspects such as hallucination. You have to contend with the general indeterminism, then the probabilistic nature of these models. You have to contend with the fact that oftentimes it's a black box and explainability is a problem, and so on, right? And then there is a larger question of, if something goes bad, who's responsible? Is it the deployer of the application, or is it the maker of the application, or is it the maker of the AI, the maker of the LLM and models and so on, right? So in general, one can't offload their professional, moral, ethical obligations, downstream. But how exactly this will play out, this is all evolving today. So, to conclude, the future is going to be really exciting and even weird. Sometimes what used to be called the Turing test is now a historical note. And now this entire thing has become multidisciplinary. So ranging from how can you make GPUs more performant and consume less energy, how to solve cooling problems, price problems, etc., to how do you make models larger and more powerful, to models smaller and more miniaturized so that they are, privacy friendly, to solving problems of, debiasing, of, responsible AI, fakes, and so on. So it's going to be an, exciting journey in the near term.
Absolutely. Perhaps an entirely different practice by itself, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Wonderful. So while we're looking at AI preparedness and we're looking at SLAs around responsible AI, and while AI contextualizes itself, enhances and refines itself, I think human co-evolution is going to see very interesting times. And I think players such as Microsoft and Kyndryl are playing an integral part in taking this thought leadership and also the conceptualization in a very interesting way forward. So thank you so much, Lijo. Thank you so much, Krishnan, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.